Alrighty, hello and welcome to the official tutorial on Infinite Projectile System from the Fab Marketplace. So anyways, to get started on this plugin, we're going to go ahead and ensure that it is enabled. You're going to go to the plugin settings and edit and plugins and type Infinite and ensure that this is ticked as true. It might ask you to restart the engine if it wasn't already enabled, so go ahead and restart it, and then you should be all set and ready to continue with this tutorial. So, Infinite Projectiles is a hyper-optimized pool system used specifically for projectiles and bullets, but it can be used for normal objects as well if you want, but we're going to be covering projectiles in this video. So, getting started, if you already have projectiles in your game and you are doing this to optimize a already existing game, you're in luck. The refactor is super easy. I have a BP projectile tester right here. This is just the default projectile. I have some logic I already had set up. All you have to do is simply go into class settings and refactor the parent class here to Infinite Projectiles projectile. And that is it. And you are all set and ready to move forward. If you do not have projectiles, you'll simply go create a new blueprint actor class, type in the search bar Infinite Projectiles, and if you have the plugin enabled, you should see under pooled object we have Infinite Projectiles projectile. Go ahead and create it, and I'm going to call this one BP Bullet. Inside of here, just for funsies, I'm going to go ahead and add a sphere so that we could see it because we can't currently see it. I'm trying to shrink that. There we go. I'm going to shrink it so it's a decent size, and everything else is all fine and dandy. I'll also go ahead and just for funsies, I'll make sure that we apply damage for 1 point when we fire off the projectile. So in the collision, I'm just going to do a on component hit, and we're just going to connect those two like so. There you go. If you already have projectile damage logic, then you should be fine. But this is just to showcase that we could still do, advanced projectile items like applying damage and doing stuff like that without any issue. So currently, right now, if we were to run this, nothing will happen, and we can't shoot. We need to go ahead and go into the edit settings, go to project settings, and under game, you'll see Infinite Projectiles Pool Setting. In here, we're going to go ahead and simply add an object. And in the index, we're going to go ahead and select the bullet. And I'm going to call this bullet. And I'm going to copy that name for later. So we'll also see a pool size and an object pool lifespan. So what are these? The pool lifespan is how long the projectile lives before we go ahead and send it back. And the pool size is how many objects we keep in memory. So the computer is always keeping these in memory. So instead of constantly creating in memory and deleting in memory these projectiles, instead we are having it all preloaded and ready to go. This makes the game very optimized. I'm going to set it to 100. You could set yours to whatever number. I would also say, just like common sense recommendation here, when you are building a game, think about how often a projectile fires. Let's say you're making a Battlefield-like game, and you have LMGs, and they have a certain fire rate, and you could have like 10 players in the game. You might want to set this a bit higher, right? But let's say you're making projectiles for tanks, and tanks only fire once every second, because it takes a long time to reload them, right? You might want 20. Just keep a reasonable number of what you think is actually going to be fired. That is all I got to say on that. That is just best use cases. I could crank this thing up to 1,000 and I won't see much difference. But you probably shouldn't, because then your game's going to be kind of bloated. That's all I'm saying. I mean, you could absolutely crank for one projectile, but I'm saying in theory, if we had this many projectiles, you probably don't want them all like that. So I'm going to go ahead and recreate that in my example. We've got bullet, and I'm just going to set that to 100, and we're going to call that good, right? Awesome. So now we could go ahead and close that, and inside of our weapon blueprint, on fire projectile, I'm going to grab the infinite projectile subsystem and spawn a pooled object, just like that. The first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that this pool tag matches the name that you gave the bullet inside your pool up there. And then I also just have some simple like transform logic, and I'm going to set my velocity to 3,000. 3,000 is good. So there we go. 3,000 is the velocity, and then I'll just hook this up to the rest of my logic. And this doesn't have to be in your weapon blueprint. Pulling from infinite projectile subsystem works on any class. So if you're having projectiles that come out of players like spells, you could do that. If you have them coming out of machinery or a level, you could absolutely do that. I'm just doing mine in the BP rifle because that's what makes sense to me. So if I were to go here, all my projectiles, I can even do damage to my dummy there. That when it takes damage, disappears. It interacts with the environment and it deletes itself once it hits an object, just like a bullet probably should. If you wanted, for whatever reason, the bullets to bounce, like the default Unreal Engine tutorial template, we could simply go up here, and at the very top, there should be a destroy on hit, which is always true by default. If you want your projectile to bounce, you could just disable the destroy on hit, compile, and now if I were to run this, we should see that our balls are bouncing, just like the original. You also see in the top right corner there that we are seeing no performance loss whatsoever in projectiles, but it's not that impressive because we're only firing so many projectiles. So I'd like to show you these little guys I created up here. And what these are is, if I were to click into them, they are an infinite spawning projectile system that is just going to blast our map full of projectiles on screen. I'm going to be using a class called Bouncy Ball that I've yet to set up, which is why we haven't been seeing them being used. But once I set them up, they're going to start working right out of the box. So, Projectile Tester right here is a class I made that just has, it's exactly what we just did. We set up with the destroy on hit disabled. I'm going to go ahead and on bullet, I'm going to re-enable destroy on hit so we have two different types of actions. And now what we're going to do is go into the project settings here, infinite projectile pool settings, and I'm going to hit the plus to add another element because we could support as many projectiles as we want. And I'm going to just enable the bouncy ball, and I'll set this to a good 300 projectiles. I'd say that's about fair. Yeah, 300 should be fine. I'm going to go ahead and save all that, and then I should hit run, and you'll notice all these bouncing balls. And the fire bars just go opposite, like bullets should, and these ones bounce, and they're actually bouncing in quite a nice pattern right now, which is fun. But I didn't set up anything fancy for that. I guess that's just how it's working right now. But that is truly our subsystem. And so you'll see here we have hundreds of bullets on screen right now, and we're still sitting at 120 frames per second up there in the top right corner. And if I were to exit, you'll see that we're still hitting 120. Now 120 is the max frames I could push. I have a decent starter card. It's a 3060, so maybe that's a really good card, maybe that's a bad card depending on your opinions, but like, I'm not going to say my PC is a beast. I'd say it's a fair PC, and we sit at 0 frame loss from the editor to the engine. I have tested this on a 1070 Ti as well and got the exact same results with its respective frame rate. So this is very hyper optimized. And honestly, all I got to say after this is just have fun with it. I have a Discord. It should be linked in the video description as well as on the seller site. So if you have any questions about it, feel free to ask there. That's where I'm going to give support. That's about that. So yeah, have fun with this. You could do as many projectiles as you want. Bullet hell game, sure, why not? Shooter games, absolutely. This will support it all, and very easily, as you can see. Yep, see ya.